There is a truth in life, one that is often forgotten when emotions take control. We hold on too tightly to the people we love, to the relationships we desire, to the outcomes we wish to see. But the tighter we hold, the more they slip away, like sand in the palm of our hand. Detachment is often misunderstood. Many think it means to stop caring, to withdraw love, or to distance oneself completely from the people they value. But true detachment is not about abandoning love, it is about liberating yourself from the chains of fear and desperation that so often accompany attachment. When you cling too tightly to someone, when you make them the center of your happiness, you begin to lose yourself. You forget that your worth is not defined by whether they stay or leave. You forget that peace does not come from holding on, but from allowing life to unfold as it is meant to. Detachment is freedom, not loss. It is the freedom to love without fear, to give without expecting, to be present without needing control. Think of it like holding a bird in your hands. If you grip it too tightly, you risk hurting it and forcing it away. If you hold it gently, with openness, it can stay by choice. This is what detachment teaches us, the art of loosening our grip, of trusting that what is meant to remain will remain, and what is meant to leave will leave. In this freedom, love grows stronger, because it is no longer bound by fear. When we are attached in an unhealthy way, we begin to act from a place of insecurity. We worry constantly. What if they leave? What if they stop caring? What if I am not enough? These thoughts consume us, and instead of love, we radiate fear. Fear creates tension. Fear drives us to chase, to beg, to control, and to overgive. But detachment shifts this energy. It says, I love you, but I do not need to control you. I value you, but I do not need you to complete me. I am whole, and if you choose to walk away, I will still be whole. That mindset is power. That is strength. Detachment is not coldness. It does not mean you stop loving or that you shut down your heart. In fact, it is the opposite. Only when you detach from outcomes can you truly love someone purely. You no longer love because of what they give you or how they make you feel. You love simply because love is who you are. When love is free from fear, it becomes more authentic, more natural, more powerful. It also brings balance into relationships. Imagine two people, one constantly clinging and the other constantly pulling away. There is no harmony there, only imbalance. The more one clings, the more the other withdraws. Detachment restores harmony because it allows both people to breathe, to feel safe, and to choose each other freely instead of from pressure or fear. And it is in this freedom that true connection flourishes. This freedom also applies beyond relationships. Detachment is essential in every area of life. When you are detached from success, you work hard not because you are desperate, but because you are passionate. When you are detached from outcomes, you stop fearing failure, and ironically, you often succeed more. When you are detached from the opinions of others, you stop living for approval and start living authentically. This is why detachment is such a powerful spiritual practice. It liberates the soul from chains it never needed to carry. The root of suffering is always attachment. Attachment to how things should be, attachment to how people should act, attachment to the belief that happiness lies outside of us. When you release that attachment, suffering lessens. You realize that happiness is not something someone else gives you, it is something you already carry within. From that realization, you are free to love more deeply, to live more fully, and to walk through life with a calmness that nothing can shake. When you allow space in a relationship, you invite clarity. Space is not emptiness, it is not absence. It is a quiet ground where both people can breathe, reflect, and rediscover what truly matters. Often, when emotions are high and attachment is strong, we crowd the other person with our fears, our expectations, our demands. We believe that if we are constantly present, constantly available, we can prevent distance or loss. Yet the truth is the opposite. Without space, there is no room for appreciation. Without silence, There is no chance to hear the unspoken. Without distance, there is no perspective. When you step back, you create an invisible energy that others can feel. Instead of pressure, there is openness. Instead of desperation, there is peace. Instead of pulling someone toward you with force, you allow them to feel drawn toward you naturally. It is the same principle you see in nature. The ocean retreats and then the waves return. The sun sets, but it rises again. Space is not abandonment. It is rhythm. It is trust in the flow of life. People often do not realize the value of what they have when it is always present, always within reach. It is in absence that hearts begin to notice what they once overlooked. Think of the times in your life when someone stepped away, and only then did you begin to feel the depth of their presence. This is what space does. It awakens awareness. It turns what was once taken for granted into something cherished. When you detach and give room, you offer others the chance to see you clearly again, without the fog of constant noise and demand. Creating space is also a form of self-respect. It is saying, I do not need to beg for attention. I do not need to chase to be seen. I know my worth, and I know that my presence carries weight. That quiet confidence is magnetic. It draws people back, not because you force them, but because they are pulled by the energy of your calm. People are naturally attracted to peace, and space is the ground where peace grows. In that space, growth happens, not just for you, but for them as well. Sometimes people need to leave in order to discover themselves. Sometimes they need distance to recognize what they truly value. If you chase, you interrupt their journey. If you hold too tightly, you prevent them from finding clarity. But if you step back, you allow life to teach them the lessons they need to learn. And when they are ready, they return not out of obligation, but out of choice. That choice is far stronger than anything forced, because it is born out of realization. Space also reveals truth. If someone disappears and never returns, it shows they were never meant to stay. If they do come back, it shows that the connection was real. Either way, you are at peace, because space has allowed you to see clearly. It removes illusion. It removes the endless questioning, and it brings a quiet acceptance of what is meant to be. When you are not afraid of giving space, you show strength. You show that you are not dependent, that you trust in the bond, that you trust in yourself. And this trust is what makes the connection even stronger. Ironically, the more you let go, the more deeply people feel held. Because they are not being held by fear, but by freedom. Chasing is an action that comes from fear, not from love. It is rooted in the belief that if you do not hold on tightly, you will lose what you value. Yet the reality is that chasing often pushes people further away. When you run after someone, you unconsciously communicate that you are incomplete without them, that your happiness is dependent on their presence, that you are not enough on your own. This creates imbalance because one person becomes the pursuer and the other becomes the pursued, and instead of mutual respect, the relationship begins to carry the weight of pressure and expectation. People rarely feel comfortable in the presence of desperation. They may respond temporarily, but eventually they seek distance because they cannot breathe under the weight of someone's constant pursuit. When you stop chasing, something shifts. Your energy changes. You move from a space of neediness into a space of strength. Instead of constantly reaching outward, you turn inward. You begin to see that everything you were running after was only a reflection of what you must first build within yourself. Peace, confidence, wholeness. These are not things anyone else can give you permanently. They are inner states cultivated through self-awareness and growth. When you recognize this truth, the desire to chase fades away, and it is replaced with the calmness of knowing that what is truly yours will never pass you by. The irony of chasing is that it blinds you to your own worth. You become so focused on proving yourself to another, on convincing them to stay, that you forget your own value. You forget that you are not meant to beg for love. but to embody it. You forget that you do not need to prove you are worthy, because your worth has always been present. Chasing is not a reflection of devotion, it is a reflection of insecurity. And when you let go of this pattern, you begin to reclaim the dignity that was hidden beneath the fear of being left behind. Think of a magnet. It attracts not by moving, not by running, but by being. Its stillness is its power. The same is true for you. When you stop chasing, your presence becomes magnetic. People sense your calmness, your centeredness, your refusal to be shaken by their absence. And that very energy draws them back. They realize you are not clinging to them, and this freedom allows them to return willingly, not forcefully. And a return born from willingness carries a much deeper bond than one born from pressure. Stopping the chase also protects your heart. When you are always running after someone, you place your happiness in their hands. Every word, every action, every silence from them controls your emotions. But when you detach from the chase, you take back your power. You decide that your peace cannot be dictated by whether they stay or leave. You begin to invest your energy into your own growth, your own purpose, your own journey. And from this investment, you gain something priceless, the realization that you are enough, with or without them. Relationships built on chasing are unstable because one person is always giving more and the other is always retreating. But relationships built on balance, where both people choose each other freely, are the ones that last. The act of stepping back, of no longer running after someone, creates the space for this balance to emerge. It allows the other person to reflect, to miss, to recognize your value without you having to constantly remind them. It gives them the freedom to return, and in that return, they are choosing you not because they were chased, but because they saw your worth in your absence. Strength has a quiet presence that speaks louder than words. It is not in chasing, not in pleading, not in proving yourself to others, but in standing in your own calmness, your own certainty, your own grounded energy. People are naturally drawn to strength because it represents stability. It represents safety. It represents something unshakable in a world where so much feels uncertain. When you embody this strength, you no longer need to demand attention or beg for love. Your energy speaks for you. You radiate a presence that makes others want to be near, not because you ask them to, but because they feel something different when they are around you. Desperation repels, but peace attracts. Imagine walking into a room filled with noise, chaos, and anxiety. You would feel drained, overwhelmed, even uncomfortable. Now imagine walking into a room filled with calm, soft silence and presence. Instantly, your body relaxes. You want to stay. You want to linger. That is the same effect strength has on people. When your energy is rooted in peace, you become the place others feel at home in. When your confidence comes not from arrogance, but from knowing who you are, people lean toward you without needing to be convinced. Strength is also deeply connected to authenticity. Pretending to be someone you are not, overextending yourself, or hiding behind masks may gain temporary attention, but it never sustains true connection. Real strength is the courage to be genuine, to show up as you are without fear of rejection. When people see this authenticity, they trust you more because they know what they feel is real. They sense there is no hidden agenda, no desperation lurking beneath the surface. That trust builds attraction far stronger than any words or gestures ever could. Another reason strength is magnetic is because it is rare. In a world where many are constantly seeking validation, constantly running after approval, the one who stands still, who is not shaken by whether they are accepted or rejected, becomes unforgettable. They stand out precisely because they do not conform to the usual pattern of neediness. This difference intrigues people. It pulls them in. It makes them curious about the source of such inner peace. And curiosity often leads to connection, because people want to be close to what they do not fully understand, but deeply admire. Strength does not mean harshness or coldness. It is not about closing your heart or building walls around yourself. True strength is gentle. It is compassionate. It listens without needing to control. It loves without needing to possess. It cares without losing itself. This balance of softness and resilience is what makes strength so attractive, because it shows that you are capable of giving love, but you are not dependent on receiving it to feel whole. It shows that you value connection, but you are not defined by it. When you embody strength, you shift from chasing to attracting. You no longer need to force people to see your worth, because your very presence reveals it. You no longer need to beg for their return, because they sense the peace you hold within yourself and are drawn to it. Strength makes you magnetic, not because you try to pull others toward you, but because your calmness becomes a mirror to their own unrest. They see in you what they are missing in themselves, and that reflection compels them to move closer. This is why strength is more powerful than words or actions when it comes to connection. Words can be ignored, actions can be misinterpreted, but energy is undeniable. People may not consciously understand why they feel drawn to someone, but they cannot resist the presence of strength. They cannot resist the aura of peace, of calm confidence, of unshakable authenticity. That is the invisible force that keeps people coming back again and again, not because you reached for them, but because your strength reminded them of something they longed for deep inside. Wholeness is the state of realizing that everything you thought you needed from others already lives within you. When you depend on someone else to make you feel complete, you hand over your power. You tell yourself that your happiness begins and ends with their presence, their approval, their love. But when you step into wholeness, that story changes. You no longer see yourself as half of something waiting to be filled. You recognize yourself as already full, already enough, already carrying the light you once sought in others. From this place, relationships transform, because you are no longer entering them from a place of lack. You are not asking someone else to fill your emptiness. You are sharing your fullness, and that shift in energy changes everything. When you are whole, you are no longer afraid of losing someone. Their absence may hurt, but it does not break you. You may miss them, but you do not collapse without them. This strength is what makes your presence magnetic, because people sense when someone is grounded in themselves. They sense when you are not desperate for them to stay, but instead invite them to share in a life that is already rich, already alive, already meaningful. That invitation feels different. It feels free, it feels genuine, and it makes people want to come closer, not because they are needed, but because they are valued. Wholeness also brings clarity. When you are whole, you no longer mistake attachment for love or desperation for devotion. You can see the difference between someone who truly belongs in your life and someone who is only there to fill a temporary void. This clarity saves you from cycles of chasing, of begging, of clinging to people who were never meant to stay. Instead, you allow space for what is real, for what is mutual, for what nourishes your soul instead of draining it. Many people are drawn to those who are whole, because wholeness is rare, in a world where so many are searching for validation outside themselves. The one who has found peace within shines differently. They are not constantly seeking attention, yet they receive it. They are not trying to impress, yet they inspire. They are not chasing love, yet love seems to flow toward them naturally. This is the paradox of wholeness. When you no longer need anyone to complete you, you become the kind of person everyone wants to be around. Wholeness is also the foundation of true detachment. You can only let go with grace when you know you will still be complete without them. You can only stop chasing when you trust that your worth is not tied to whether they return. Wholeness gives you the strength to release with love, to step back without bitterness, to focus on your own path without fear. And it is often in this space of release that others realize your value. They see that you are not waiting in desperation, but walking forward in peace. And that peace calls them back in a way that neediness never could. To be whole is to be rooted. It is to carry an inner calm that is not shaken by circumstances, not broken by rejection, not dependent on approval. This calmness is what makes people feel safe with you. It shows them that you will not collapse under the weight of their choices, that you are strong enough to love without controlling, to give without clinging. And that kind of strength is irresistible, because it offers a freedom that most have never known. When someone comes back to a person who is whole, they are not returning to the same version of the past. They are returning to someone who has grown, who has risen, who has learned to stand tall alone. This return is deeper, more meaningful, because it is not about filling emptiness. It is about joining fullness with fullness, wholeness with wholeness, two people choosing each other freely, without fear, without desperation, without need. Life often teaches us through paradox, and one of the greatest paradoxes is that what you release with love often finds its way back to you. The harder you cling, the more you create resistance, the more you suffocate the very thing you want to keep. But when you loosen your grip, when you step back with trust, you allow the natural flow of life to bring back what is truly meant for you. Detachment is not about pushing people away. It is about trusting that what is aligned with you will return without force. This trust is powerful because it frees you from the exhausting cycle of chasing and allows destiny to unfold as it should. When you let go, you create space for alignment. If something or someone is not meant for you, they will not remain, no matter how hard you try to hold on. And if they are meant for you, no amount of distance will keep them away. Letting go is an act of faith in this universal truth. It is saying, I no longer need to control the outcome, because I know what belongs to me will always find its way back. This faith replaces fear with peace, desperation with calm, and in that state of calmness, you become a magnet for what is truly yours. The paradox is that when you stop chasing, you often receive what you once ran after. People return not because you demanded it, but because your detachment created the very space for them to see your value. They feel the absence of your energy, they notice the silence, and in that quiet, they realize what you brought into their life. This realization cannot happen if you are always present, always pushing, always chasing. Only distance allows people to reflect, and only detachment gives them the freedom to choose to come back. Detachment also protects you from illusions. Many times, we confuse attachment with love. We think that holding tightly is a sign of care, when in reality, it is often a sign of fear. True love does not suffocate. True love does not cling. True love allows freedom, and freedom is born from detachment. When you detach, you love more purely, because you are no longer loving to keep someone, but loving because love itself flows through you. If they return, it is not because you begged, but because they felt the authenticity of that love. And if they do not return, it is because they were never truly meant to walk the full journey with you. And that too is a gift of clarity. The power of detachment lies in this balance, allowing without forcing, holding without gripping, caring without controlling. This balance creates a natural pull that is far stronger than chasing. It is the pull of peace, the pull of confidence, the pull of someone who knows their worth regardless of who stays or who leaves. People sense this energy, and it awakens something in them. They are drawn back not to a version of you that was desperate for their presence, but to a version of you that is whole, calm, and radiant on your own. The beauty of detachment is that it transforms relationships. When someone returns, they do so freely, without resentment, without pressure. Their return is a choice, and choices made freely are always deeper and more lasting than those made out of obligation. And if they never return, detachment ensures that you are still at peace, because you know that what is truly meant for you can never be lost. Detachment, therefore, is not weakness, but the highest form of strength, because it requires trust in yourself, trust in the journey, and trust in the unseen order of life.